The Pimax 8KX is the new Pimax flagship model, the most advanced headset that the company is offering. Its unique selling proposition clearly are the dual 4K displays that can be run at their native resolution, something that no other consumer VR headset can match. Coming in at $1,299 for the headset only, or $1,828 for the complete bundle, including base stations and controllers, the 8KX is around double the price of the Valve Index and therefore clearly targeted at the VR enthusiast that is looking for the very cutting edge of the technology and is willing to pay up for it. In this preview, you'll find out how the 8KX fares against the Valve Index and why for some of you, this might be the headset that you've been waiting for, but for the most of us, the $1,000 on top of the Valve Index complete package is not worth it. And all of this goodness is coming up. Hi and welcome back to MRTV. My name is Sebastian Ang and this channel is all about virtual reality. I'm bringing you unbiased and honest reviews of all the VR headsets, of all the VR accessories, and you're getting the latest news. So if you're into that, then subscribe now and click on the bell button so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Now this video is called a preview because this here is only the pre-production model of the 8KX. However, the only part that is not final yet is the audio part, which will be changed. The display is exactly how you will get it in your final unit, so therefore this preview is as close to a review as it can get. Before we start, I would like to remind you that Pimax is still a startup company and therefore they're still facing challenges as far as customer service and timeliness of delivery are concerned. Therefore, I have decided not to make profit with Pimax affiliate links. If you want to support this kind of unbiased reporting, then become a Patreon of MRTV at mrtvelite.com. Overview. At $1,299 or $1,399 for the version with a more advanced audio solution, the headset offers two 4K displays that can either be driven at their native resolution of 3840 x 2160 pixels per eye or upscaled from 2560 x 1440 pixels per eye if the GPU is not quite up to the speed rendering the dual native 4K resolution. The LC displays offer a maximum refresh rate of 75 Hz in native mode and 90 Hz when upscaled. Just as we come to expect from a Pimax headset, the FOV is way bigger than that of the competition and offers 200 degrees as compared to the standard 110 or the 135 degrees of the Valve Index. More is not always better though, and the higher the FOV, the more distortions will be visible in the peripheral area that some consumers might find distracting. Anyways, the customer can always lower visible FOV in the headset settings and therefore can also reduce the visible distortions. Just as all the other Pimax headsets, the 8KX uses the SteamVR Lighthouse tracking technology. Therefore, to be able to use the headsets, customers will need the Lighthouse base stations and compatible controllers like the Vive Wands or the Valve Index controllers. Should customers still own base stations from the previous Lighthouse headsets, those can be used. Otherwise, customers can opt for a full bundle including two base stations, version 2.0, and the Valve Index controllers. Such a bundle is priced at $1,828, all prices excluding tax and custom duties, for the version with the standard headphone solution, and $1,928 for the so-called deluxe headphone version. Build quality, comfort and features. The Pimax 8KX is part of the new Vision series of Pimax headsets. These come with a way superior housing quality as compared to the previous models. The shape of the housing is still the same, but the material has been upgraded. According to the Pimax website, the new material comes with a special damage-resistant coating. This coating has a rubbery feel to it and from my first impressions does deliver a quality standard that is definitely better than what we've seen from Pimax before. In direct comparison to the build quality of the Valve Index, the 8KX can still hardly compete though, and it's quite interesting to see how Valve was able to manufacture such a quality product at a $499 asking price. The Pimax 8KX finally comes with a rigid head strap that the company calls Modular Audio Strap, MAS. The long-awaited upgrade to the elastic strap makes all the difference when it comes to comfort. It closely resembles the rigid head strap of the Vive Pro, and it's safe to say that the head strap of the competitor inspired Pimax for its own offering. That is not a bad thing though, because the design simply works. It offers a counterweight for the headset and therefore manages to balance the headset really well. The 8KX can therefore be worn for hours without it feeling front heavy. Getting into the headset and adjusting it to the right size is also very straightforward and so much more convenient as compared to the elastic strap solution. Just like on most other competing headsets, the user simply can turn an adjustment wheel at the back of the head strap. The modular audio strap even has some advantages as compared to its competitors. Each of the soft textile paddings are velcroed onto the device and can be exchanged. So once the paddings are worn out, they can simply be replaced by new ones. That is an advantage that even the Valve Index cannot offer. The 8KX also comes in with the upgraded Comfort Kit, an improved facial interface that features a much broader area for the forehead to rest on. The material used here is a soft fabric that feels very comfortable, and that is definitely also an upgrade as compared to the previous face pads. These face pads are also interchangeable, and Pimax also offers PU leather versions that some consumers might prefer for hygiene reasons. The modular audio strap comes in two versions, the standard version and the deluxe version. The difference here is the audio part of the strap. The standard version adopts an open ear approach similar to Oculus Rift S and Quest, where small speakers simply emit sound in proximity to the ear. The $100 more expensive deluxe version comes with Index-style headphones. The pre-production model that this preview is based on came with a standard MAS. Unfortunately though, the speakers of that model are not the final ones, and Pimax told me that they will replace them with much better ones for the final production units. Therefore, I will need to wait for the final judgment on the audio solution. The ones built into this pre-production model sounded subpar at best and absolutely need replacement. The headset itself comes with all the same features that we know from the previous headsets. There's an IPD adjustment wheel, on-off button, volume rockers, and two USB-C connectors for future upgrades like the eye tracking or the hand tracking module. The headset now sports two 3.5mm audio jacks on both sides, an upgrade from the single jack of previous models. There are also some changes with the cable. Instead of having to power the device with an external power adapter, it now simply uses an additional USB plug to do so. Overall, the cable now has 3 plugs, 1 display port and 2 USB plugs. The cable length is 5 meters, which makes it long enough to use in most play spaces. Display, lenses, and FOV. For many of you, this section of the preview might as well be the most exciting one. Let's discuss the picture quality. Is the picture quality truly as amazing as you would expect from dual native 4K displays? The answer is a resounding yes. Beyond any doubt, the picture quality here is truly amazing and better than that of the Valve Index. Also, when directly compared to the HP Reverb, I would prefer the 8KX display. If you really want to run the 8KX at its native resolution though, you will need a high-end computer, and we will find out more about that in the benchmark section of this preview. The displays both feature a resolution of 3840 x 2160 pixels per eye, 4K. The LCD panels that are being used here offer a full RGB stripe matrix, meaning each pixel is being represented by 3 subpixels, and therefore we have an extremely high fill factor. Screen door effect, SDE, is truly a problem of the past here. Unfortunately, in order to achieve this kind of resolution over a single DisplayPort connection, sacrifices had to be made. When using the 8KX in its native 4K mode, the maximum refresh rate is only 75 Hz. Not many applications will be optimized enough to be able to render dual native 4K in 75 frames per second on current machines anyways, but some, like for example Half-Life Alyx, actually can do so. Therefore, the 75 Hz maximum refresh rate of the native 4K mode is indeed a limitation that does matter now and will even matter more once GPUs are on the market that could easily provide rendering of dual 4K frames at a faster render rate than 75 per second. For me personally, for the longest time I thought I could not tell the difference between different refresh rates. If I played a game in 90 Hz or 120 Hz, I did not really see a big difference. But now, when A/B comparing a game that will truly give me 120 frames per second like Half-Life Alyx, and then playing the same game with 75 frames per second on the Pimax 8KX in 4K native mode, the difference is painfully obvious. I feel way more immersion on headsets like the Index or the Artisan that run at 120 Hz, even though the resolution is not as high as with the 8KX. That also has to do with more visible distortions on the 8KX that are especially obvious in games with lots of head movements like Half-Life Alyx, and we will get to that in a moment. For games that are not as highly optimized as Half-Life Alyx, you must be extremely aware of the fact that the amount of frames per second that your GPU can render might not make for an enjoyable experience. Again, more about that in the benchmark section. If the device is used in upscale mode, meaning a lower input resolution of 2560 x 1440 pixels is upscaled to 4K, a high refresh rate of 90 Hz can be achieved. Once in that mode, it closely resembles the Pimax 8K Plus model that is $300 cheaper than the 8KX. The 8KX uses exactly the same Fresnel lenses that had been used in all the other recent Pimax wide FOV headsets. They do a fairly good job at projecting the wide FOV picture into the user's eyes. Like all Fresnel lenses, there is still some glare in high contrast scenes. These God rays are not as bad though as in the Valve Index, and I do not think they would actually cause problems for anyone. Pimax headsets are known for their wide field of view, and the 8KX is no exception here. It offers 4 options: large, medium, small, and potato, with the large one being 200 degrees. Now, 200 degrees versus 135 degrees of the Valve Index, that is a big difference, and the worlds are more immersive with a wider field of view. That is, if you're not affected by the added distortions that are introduced by the wide field of views. So that is quite a big if. Distortions and warping around the edges of the visible area had been a big topic and a reason of concern since the introduction of the wide FOV headsets. Offering such a huge FOV does come with some drawbacks and compromises that the customer has to live with. Some might not be affected at all and barely see them. For others, they might be a showstopper. To be able to get an idea about the distortions of the 8KX, I will give you my personal assessment now. First of all, the larger the FOV, the bigger the distortions. So that's why I always had been using the normal option on prior Pimax headsets. And comparing the distortion on normal of the 8KX to the distortions of the Pimax 5K Plus that I had been using before as my go-to Pimax headset, I can say that I perceive a bit less of distortions with the new model, but they are still noticeable for me. I've reached out to Pimax to find out why I would see less distortions as compared to the 5K Plus, and the answer was that the new Comfort Kit facial padding would put the user's eye at just the right distance and angle to the lenses, which would minimize distortions. Unfortunately, the distortions are still very visible in the large option, and still at normal, your brain will need time to get used to them. It also depends on the type of game that you play. If there are lots of head movements, like for example in games like Half-Life Alyx, those distortions will become more apparent and might be distracting. If you play a cockpit game though, where you have very few head movements, you might not be distracted by the distortions at all. In direct comparison to the entry-level Artisan headset, I perceived more distortions when using the 8KX, even when comparing the displays at similar FOV settings. Also, I had less eye strain after using the entry-level Pimax headset for longer periods of time. The reason for that most probably is the higher 120Hz refresh rate of the Artisan in conjunction with a more eye-friendly distortion profile. I had already argued in my Artisan preview that Pimax might have found a great compromise between FOV and comfort by not trying to maximize the FOV as they do with their other headsets. I had reached out to Pimax to find out why I would see less distortions on the Artisan, and the company replied that they had already finalized the distortion profile on the Artisan while they're still tuning it on the 8KX. Colors and black levels of the 8KX are on a similar level as the LCD panels of the previous Pimax headsets. They don't stand out as either positive or negative, and you can still adjust contrast and brightness in the Pi tool yourself. However, in direct comparison to the colors and black levels of the Valve Index, the 8KX is clearly inferior. Overall, the picture quality is as good as you expected from a 4K headset. And if distortions of the prior Pimax models did not bother you, then you also won't have a problem with the 8KX, and you will truly love the picture quality that it delivers. Audio. Pimax offers their modular audio strap in two versions. The standard one that adopts an open-ear approach like Oculus Quest and Rift S, and the deluxe version, which is offering index-style headphones. The pre-production model that this preview is based on came with a standard version. However, it was not the final one yet, and that is why I cannot give a final judgment as far as audio is concerned. What I can say though is that the speaker is quite far away from the ear for the standard MAS, and should there be any kind of other noises around the play area, that surely could affect immersion. But since there are two audio jacks, the user could always just use their own headphones. Once I get to try out the final versions of the modular audio straps, I will surely review them. Benchmarks. According to Pimax, the recommended GPU for running the 8KX in native mode is an RTX 2080 or better, and for upscale mode, customers should at least own an RTX 2060 or better. I was surprised that I could actually use the native mode at all with my GTX 1080 Ti. In really well optimized games, I would even get the full 75 frames per second in native mode. For very demanding games like DCS or X-Plane 11, I would absolutely recommend the fastest and best GPU available though, to truly be able to enjoy the ultra high resolution at acceptable frame rates. Running the 8KX with the top of the line GPU of the next generation should be pretty amazing, and I'm looking forward to that. Anyone with an RTX 2080 Ti should be able to enjoy the headset also for these more demanding titles now already, but for sure the investment into the 8KX will really pay off once the 3080 Ti arrives. Just for being able to compare the 8KX with the Artisan and the Index in terms of performance, I'm using the OpenVR benchmark test again. On the same system that the Index reached 44 frames per second and the Artisan could render 33 frames per second, the 8KX could do 20 frames per second at an already scaled down 3188 x 2732 pixel resolution. In upscaled mode at 90 Hz, the benchmark could produce 25 frames per second at 3852 x 1824 pixel resolution. Tracking and controllers. For my tests, I used the Valve Index controllers and they performed as good as expected. Valve Lighthouse Tracking simply is the best and most reliable tracking solution available to consumers. The company offers full bundles that include Valve Lighthouse base stations and Valve Index controllers, and customers will be well advised to choose these controller bundles if they not already own the Index controllers and base stations. Software compatibility, ease of setup. Just like all the Pimax headsets, the 8KX is compatible with all Steam VR applications out of the box. Setting up the device is way easier than people may have heard, and just as I mentioned in my Artisan preview, the Pi tool software that is being used for setup and for configuration has come a long way since its inception. Setting up the device is a matter of minutes. Oculus Rift games can also be played, and they simply have to be imported into Pi tool and work well without the need to install any additional software. Users can also configure brightness, colors, and switch between native 4K or upscaled mode within the software, and could get more involved into the nitty-gritty if they choose to do so. For all others, the standard settings mostly work fine. Conclusion. The Pimax 8KX is an impressive VR headset. The picture quality in native 4K mode is truly outstanding and better than any VR consumer headset at this moment in time. Also, the ultra-wide FOV is something that only the Pimax headsets can offer. Unfortunately, this does come with a few compromises and caveats though. Most notably, the low maximum refresh rate of 75 Hz that is especially perceivable when A/B comparing against the 120 Hz of the Valve Index. Also, the distortion problem is still there, and people who are sensitive to even the slightest optical flaws will have a problem here. Taking into consideration that the 8KX is more than double as expensive as the Valve Index, which offers a way higher refresh rate, a completely undistorted picture that everyone will be able to enjoy, better colors, better build quality, more intricate optical settings like for example eye relief, and a better sound as compared to the standard MAS, the 8KX is a tough sell for the big majority of consumers. Those who simply want an amazing headset to play the latest games at a great audiovisual quality and high refresh rates on their current generation machines should better go for the Valve Index. Those who are looking for a better value proposition than the 8KX, but still want a bigger FOV than the above average Index FOV, and that do not like the glare of the Index lenses, should take a closer look at the Pimax Artisan. Who should buy the 8KX then? The 8KX will be a fantastic headset for all those VR enthusiasts that are simply looking for the VR headset that can offer the best picture quality on the market right now. The 8KX will be just the right headset for simmers, those who need that extra clarity to perfectly read all the gauges in flight sims, and those who need that extra resolution to see competing cars and racing sims further down the track. If you are the kind of enthusiast that will buy the upcoming RTX 3080 Ti on day one, no matter the cost, and if you already own a Pimax headset without being bothered by the distortions, you belong to the group of people that will love and truly enjoy what the Pimax 8KX has to offer. And that's it for the MRTV preview of the Pimax 8KX. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you feel well informed. If yes, give it a thumbs up. Now, if in the future you want to support unbiased and honest reporting, then consider becoming a Patreon at mrtvelite.com. That's it, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next episode.